Blessings, and welcome to Eartheart Radio. Finally beginning to awaken from the illusion of separateness and broadcasting live from the KSKQ studios in beautiful Ashland, Oregon. Here's your host, Shankara Das.
Or you can just call me Derek Moody, and that's the name I'm known by. And, I'm changing my intro. I actually have a brand new intro, which will go into effect next week on the show, but that's neither here nor there. Good afternoon, brothers and sisters, and thank you kindly for your ears. Yes, thanks for tuning in and listening. The world is becoming quite erratic. We must remember we are spiritual beings temporarily inhabiting human bodies. There are no accidents. There are no coincidences in the big cosmic picture. We should do our very best to assist others in need. Trying to minimize the suffering of others is a wonderful thing. Awaken from the illusion of separateness. Today we'll hear harmonious music and positive news, and we will spotlight Mahavatar Babaji. But my guest today is someone I'm happy to be able to speak with. He is a monastic of the Self-Realization Fellowship group based in California, I believe nearly 50 years or more, involved with S.R.F. That might be a fair statement, but let's let him clarify and let's let him speak the truth. My friends, I'm going to plug my phone right here into the little cord, and we're going to welcome Brahmachari Martin to the Eartheart Radio Show. As soon as I get the cord, find my correct cord, pardon me. Brahmachari Martin, are you on the line with me? Okay, here, one more time. Brahmachari, are you there?
I am.
Okay, I've got you sounding great now. How are you today?
I'm fine. And first of all, it's not 50 years, it's 40 years. I'm not that old.
Okay, I dated you by 10 years more. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I'm just generally old, not hugely old.
Yeah. Now, I have a list of questions, but most of them basically are coming right to my mind. First of all, for those folks that are listening, what does Brahmachari mean?
Brahmachari is one of the vows that our monastic order has, beginning with postulant, which is the first-year monk, and then novice after that, then Brahmachari, which means self-control. And then after that is brother, which is sannyasi, and those are final vows.
So that's when you get to the top of the chain there.
That's right.
40 years. Wow, that's a long time. You must really have fallen in love with Swamiji once you found Paramahansa Yogananda. How did you ever first hear of Paramahansa Yogananda?
Yeah, actually, it's 50 years since I've been following Yogananda. So that's since 1970.
Okay, that's where the 50 came in. Okay.
Yeah, that's what that was. And I was at college. I was going to USC, and this was the time of the young people, the hippies. Everyone was questioning everything, not only politically but as life itself. Are we this egos? Are we this body? Isn't there more to life? And me and my buddy at the fraternity were reading book after book after book about spirituality and Eastern mysticism. And he finally, at one time, he said, you have to read this book. And he said, just stop. This is the book, because this guru has a guru that's even more amazing, and he has a guru that's even more amazing, and he has a guru that's even more amazing. That's the guru that you're going to talk about at the end of your show. And I thought, wow. And I read it, and it was that and more. And the voice that came out of the autobiography of a yogi was just like he was talking right directly to me. Like I never read a voice in literature or biography like that in my life. It was like a friend that was telling you, and it was the most extraordinary things he was telling me about expansion of consciousness, different worlds, reincarnation, life after death, and yet he was telling it in the most matter-of-fact voice that there was. And I had this really strong feeling, and I never had this before because I was kind of intellectual, but I had this feeling that everything this person says is true, and I just know that, and that sort of just set me on this path.
Isn't it amazing how autobiography of a yogi has literally brought just millions of people into higher consciousness?
Yeah, it sold 4 million copies since its release in '46, I think. And Steve Jobs gave 150 copies of it at his funeral. That was what he asked to be done. It was the one book that was on his iPod. So it's an amazing book. I was working in graphic design here in the ashram as we were doing some new books for the general public, and we wanted to get some book covers that were a little bit different. So I went to Borders and I looked at interesting book covers, and I looked in the back and I saw the names of the designers, and so I called up the designers one after the other to see if they could work for us. And it was amazing. As soon as I said who they was, oh, Autobiography of a Yogi, oh, Yogananda has changed my life. And these were not even members.
Wow.
And so I realized there's this sort of very incredible pervasiveness of Yogananda and Autobiography of a Yogi that really goes beyond his organization and to the world, because he was a world teacher.
Yeah, it's much bigger than the book itself.
Yeah.
It's amazing, too, that you brought up the fact that Steve Jobs gifted so many copies of that book to people, because I was going to bring up to you right before that personally I've purchased maybe a dozen copies in the last 5 years to give to truth-seeking souls, and it seems like it's really opened up the hearts of almost every one of those people. Not all of them, but a lot of them have come away saying, hey, thank you for that book. It really brought me to a new dimension, and it led me to yet another book or another guru or some teacher.
Yeah, I can't imagine anybody would read that book and not be deeply, deeply affected. A lot of people get the book and they put it, and they're a little afraid of reading it. They go, I know when I read this book, that's going to be it.
You're right.
So they'll put it on there, and because his picture's right up there, and you look in those eyes, as George Harrison said, and they zap you. And so, yeah, they avoid it. I've talked to many people that sort of happened, and then at some day when the karmic time is right, they say, well, I have to read this, and then they read it, and then they say, oh, I have to follow this.
Interesting. I would like to ask you, Brahmachari Martin, what does your daily life consist of as far as regular day-to-day activities?
Well, in the ashram, it's a routinized life. We have group meditation in the morning. We work, we serve, we have regular jobs. We'll have a meditation at noon, and we'll eat. Sometimes we eat together, sometimes we eat apart if we're working in different areas. And we work in the evening just like anyone else that has a 9-to-5 job. Then we have exercise and recreation, supper, maybe a class or a longer meditation. So it's a very, very normal, balanced life. But that's basically, this path is not for monastics. It's for the lay members. And Paramahansaji always said this: the ideal is to meditate morning and evening, and then basically just live your life. Live your life the best you can do, following right attitude, following the Sanatana Dharma, the laws of life. And that's really all you need to do. The great thing about Yogananda brought Kriya Yoga to the West, and the great thing about this technique is it's accelerated. So the busy Westerner can meditate in the morning and then go about his work and his family duties and everything, and then in the evening do the same, and then have this and experience the same degree of spiritual advancement that in the past was possible only through monastic dedication. Yogananda said 24 hours of ordinary prayer equals 1 hour of Hong Sa technique, the concentration technique that is given before Kriya. 24 hours of Hong Sa technique equals 1 hour of Kriya. So it's very accelerated and concentrated, and so this is perfect for Western life. Raja Yoga, which this is a part of, actually comes from kingly yoga. And this is the yoga that kings followed in the higher ages in India. And the kings were pretty busy. They had kingdoms to run, and yet they could do this, and they could also seek God. So that was really Guruji's message, that living a balanced life and taking a little bit of time for scientific meditation, one can find God in this life.
Well said. Very well said. We were speaking off air that you do reside down in the beautiful Lake Shrine down in Los Angeles. I was down there last summer, and boy, that place is so just beautiful. It's so like a paradise there.
It's amazing. This was one of the last ashram centers that Paramahansaji built that in 1950, 1951. And it has a natural lake. It's the only natural lake in Los Angeles. And around it are meditation gardens. There's a sarcophagus with Mahatma Gandhi's ashes. Gandhi took Kriya Yoga from Yogananda when he went there when he returned to India in 1936. So Gandhi was a disciple and close to Yogananda, and when he passed on, they sent half his ashes to Paramahansaji, and they're in a sarcophagus there. And so it's called a Gandhi World Peace Memorial. And you can feel it. You get on the grounds, and everybody, it's like reading the autobiography of Yogi. And this is a place. You step on it, and you feel that vibration, a tremendous, tremendous peace. And it's very, very popular destination for anybody visiting Los Angeles.
Yeah, it's the swans and all the just beautiful animals and all the great just nature on that ground is so awesome.
Little bonsai garden and it's just absolutely gorgeous.
You know, Paramahansa Yogananda, I was growing up in the Midwest, so I was only shown one side of spirituality, which was basically a Christian-based teaching. And once I discovered Paramahansa Yogananda and Autobiography of a Yogi, it really blew my mind open to the fact that it doesn't have to be so limited. I met a gentleman up at the Hindu temple in Portland, and I said, "May I ask what your religion is?" And he said, "Yes, I'm a Christian, Muslim, Hindu." And that blew me away because I didn't know at that time that somebody could actually be like that. You would have to have one or the other. So Paramahansa Yogananda was so instrumental in not just teaching me, but millions of others that there is another way, and it's all encompassing, and we're all in this together.
Absolutely. I talked to a lot of wonderful Christian devotees, and they ask, can I do Kriya? Can I practice, and still be in my Christian religion? And I say, absolutely. And especially in the South. In the South, there's the Christian churches, they're more like family. And there's a beautiful, beautiful sense of love and family around them. And one particular individual I was talking to is a deacon in the church. And when his son had cancer, they just took care, all the members took care and fed the family and took care of them for a whole year while that was going on. So
beautiful.
It was beautiful. And he says, I believe Christ gave Kriya Yoga to his disciples, and that's why I want it, because I'm a Christian.
That's so great.
Yeah, absolutely. And Yogananda said the Christian does his prayers, and the Muslim does his bowing to Mecca, and the Jewish person goes to synagogue, but then they practice Kriya Yoga, and it's a science. It's not a religion.
Right. Speaking of books, we're talking about Autobiography of a Yogi. One of my other favorite books, and it's quite a heavy, very deep book to read, which really gets one thinking, and that's the book by Swami Sri Yukteswar, which is called The Holy Science. What is your view on that book?
Yeah, that's an incredible book. It's very, very deep. And it's interesting because he delineates all the steps, how the consciousness, when it turns within, the energy turns within. And this is what Kriya is. The energy is going out into the senses, and that's our problem. It's identified with the senses, delusion, and duality. And Kriya Yoga is withdrawing the energy inside. that's the missing link in meditation. Everyone thinks, well, I can't meditate because I'm restless. I can't control the mind. Well, join the club. Nobody can control the mind.
Right.
And you can't control the mind with the mind. The more you try to stop it, the more agitated it's going to get. What you have to do is you have to control the energy. Where the energy is, there is the consciousness. And Kriya withdraws the energy away from the senses, inside, into the spine, and into the brain. And when you go inside this way, there is another world. There are these centers. There's chakras. We all know that term. And inside, and then the path that the energy goes was written up by Sri Yukteswar. How the energy goes out to form the world, and then how it comes in to go inside. And it's a book that you could spend lifetimes on, because it really says everything. But the incredible thing about it is, at the end, and he's known as the saint of wisdom, and he trained Yogananda, and he was like incredibly strict, and because he had this incredible incisive wisdom. And so Yogananda's personality was mainly love. And so he had to get used to that a little bit. But of course he did. And in the back of Sri Yukteswar's book, he basically said, it's all love. It all ends up being love. And that is a huge, huge thing about it, because you can take the science of religion and you can get all into the weeds with that and be a scientist about it. But unless you have love, unless you have a relationship with God, with your Ishta, whatever that version of however you perceive God, there's no wrong answers in that. Like Alcoholics Anonymous say, choose a higher power.
Yes.
But cultivating that relationship with God is the second part. He said Kriya Yoga plus devotion. That's the aspect of it. And so Sri Yukteswar in that book delineates the whole wisdom aspect, and then at the end says, but in the end it's all love. And that's the thing. Especially I emphasize that with men, because it's the most important thing, because we're so self-centered. It's all about me, me, me. And the hardest thing is to do anything for anybody else.
Yeah.
To get the consciousness off that. It is really, really hard. And that's where, the spiritual effort, a lot of it needs to go. You can't just be meditating in your little mountaintop and forget about everything.
Yeah.
Especially these days, what's happening today with the coronavirus and everything. It's pulling us all together, and realizes we need each other.
Right.
And
that was my very next question, Brahmachari Martin. It was what your take on the coronavirus is, and what do you think Swamiji would tell us in regards to this pandemic? What kind of advice would he give, I wonder?
I think he would say the first thing is to follow the health and government authorities, do the right thing, because that's for each other. And then don't fear. Cut off fear. Fear blocks the healing energy, the divine energy, from going through us. So it's the worst thing. But of course, what happens is you get in when the world fears, then the individual fears. It's fear is more viral than any virus.
Our collective consciousness is definitely seemingly being affected by all of just a lot of negativity and sad news going on. So we do have to individually try to counteract that with meditation, sending out love vibes, doing selfless service. And I just think, like you said, I think, it's a scary time for some, but it's also a very great time for spiritual work and for coming together.
Yeah, you can feel both. I mean, I can look at the news and start feeling scared, and then I could go away from the news and see, help it do something extra in the kitchen because we're kind of in lockdown, and then feel joy in that. So that's sort of life in a nutshell. Wherever we put our consciousnesses on, that's what we're going to feel. So people should don't just bury yourself in the news. Go out and do an affirmation. I am safe in the fortress of thy protection. I am safe in the fortress of thy protection. And that can counteract the negativity.
And that's a beautiful way of saying that. Thank you. I don't have a whole lot of time. I would like to ask you a question that is pretty profound, and I'm not expecting a really long answer, but if you want to give an abridged, perhaps nutshell answer, a lot of folks talk about this, but not a lot of people really address it. What do you think happens the moment the physical body dies to our soul or consciousness? What do you think happens as soon as the body drops?
As soon as the body drops, well, it's a process. The energy, the body, the soul, and the energy gradually withdraw, and it withdraws to a certain point, and then in final death, it withdraws out of the body, and it goes out to the other side. And we hear these near-death experiences, and that's been documented, beautifully by many, many people, and they explain that, where they are and what happens. There's a light. They go through light. They see loved ones. They see maybe a spiritual teacher. They feel incredible bliss, incredible joy. I had a dream of someone that passed on, and he was like so radiant. I was just almost at his feet, because he was like a god, and I knew this person, and I go, you weren't a god when I knew you. What's happening? but that's the soul, and that's who we are. It's the greatest show. The fact that we have inferiority complexes is the biggest joke, because we are so mighty and divine and beautiful, and we experience that when we pass to the other side. And there's various, if a yogi goes back to God, even a worldly person, he is free of the body, and there's joy. And a spiritual person, he's free and he goes to a higher realm.
Yeah.
And then when karma comes, that we spend a certain amount of time there. And then when the karma sounds its horn, that's the Gabriel's horn, we come back in a new form.
Very interesting. I guess my last question would be, if one was interested in becoming a monk or a monastic, what advice would you give to how one would first start on the path of that kind of lifestyle?
Well, first of all, become a member of Self-Realization Fellowship. Go to the website of S.R.F, Yogananda-SRF.org, and check out the material there. Do some meditations, look at some books, read Autobiography of a Yogi. You can apply for the S.R.F lessons, which gives the Kriya Yoga science, on the website, and then you can practice, get the lessons and get Kriya Yoga, and then for a number of years in Kriya Yoga, then you can inquire about being a monk. But again, I emphasize we're only like 100 of us, and there's thousands and thousands of Kriya Yogis around the world. So that's the basic path. But we are looking for a few good men, a few good women for the monastic things, because it's always something we need, and it's a wonderful life. I just want to dance every day I get up. I'm pretty darn happy, and it's not an escape, but it's a great way to seek God. And I always thought environment is stronger than willpower, and so anyway, so to get on the website, become a member, take Kriya, and see where that leads, because it's basically where God's going to guide you.
Yeah, and if you're listening outside of Ashland, Oregon, or Los Angeles, there are many Self-Realization Fellowship temples in many cities. All you have to do is get on the internet and do a little research to find out where the nearest temple is to you. And if you are listening in the Ashland or Southern Oregon area, I will let you know there is Self-Realization Fellowship Temple in Ashland, which is on Oak Street, and they do meet on Thursday evenings, and also they have Sunday services for meditation and metaphysical reading groups, which are very beneficial, and I really certainly enjoy them. And Brahmachari Martin, it's been a real pleasure and enlightening talking with you today. My only regret is I wish I had more time, but thank you so much for allowing, I know you don't do many interviews, thanks for allowing your schedule to fit me in today.
Thank you. This is really nice. I really, really enjoyed it, and hope everyone stays safe, and talk again maybe.
Yeah, for sure. And I really appreciate your time, Brahmachari Martin. Best of luck to you in the future and many blessings, okay?
Blessings to you, Derek.
Okay, thanks. Much love.
All right, much love.
Okay, bye-bye. Wow, there we have it. I've been looking forward to that interview for a while. Brahmachari Martin from Self-Realization Fellowship. You're listening to KSKQ Radio and the Eartheart Radio Show. Thank you to my listeners. Bob and Lynn are tuned in up in upstate New York. And I know Lynn actually spent a little time at the Self-Realization Fellowship back in the 60s in Los Angeles, and because she has told me so. So that's pretty interesting. Also, I have Doug Shields tuned in Pekin, Illinois. My father, Don, is listening in Omaha, Nebraska. Daughter Jessie is tuned in Florida. Audrey in Portland. Ricky and Kelly in Kenosha, Wisconsin have tuned in. Also Dale Bentley and Kat Wondergloom here in Southern Oregon. And the one and only Sister Tracy listening here in Ashland, Oregon. My friends, let's roll on with some music, and then we'll spotlight a saint very shortly.
Krishna, Jesus, Buddha, we give thanks to the beloved sages and blessed saints. You're listening to Eartheart Radio on KSKQ.
You are at the Eartheart Radio Show with an interesting track from an album called Turiya Nada that was called Sita Joy.
Air, trees, water, animals. Eartheart Radio on KSKQ.
Thanks for being here, my friends.
Saints, angels, avatars, sages, yogis, holy men, medicine men, helpers, elders, revolutionaries, and advocates of love. Today we honor and show love, respect, and gratitude.
My friends, each week I like to pay tribute to a high-frequency soul inhabiting a temporary human body, and today is no exception. Today I'm talking about Mahavatar Babaji. That was the name given to the Indian yogi by Lahiri Mahasaya, who reported meeting Babaji between 1861 and 1935, and several other disciples. Paramahansa Yogananda reported meeting the yogi. According to Sri M's book, Autobiography, Babaji was Lord Shiva. According to Yogananda's autobiography, Babaji resided in the remote Himalayan regions of India, seen in person by only a small number of disciples. There are very few accounts of Babaji's childhood. One disciple claimed that Babaji told him he was born November 30th, 203 CE in a small coastal village in India. Babaji was a disciple of Bogar, and his birth name was Nagarajan. In his book, The Second Coming of Christ, Paramahansa Yogananda states that Jesus Christ went to India and conferred with Mahavatar Babaji. This would make Babaji 2,000 years old. Babaji's father was priest of the village temple. During the next few years, he wandered from place to place studying holy scriptures like the Vedas, the Upanishads, the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, and the Bhagavad Gita. At age 11, he was initiated into the secrets of Kriya Kundalini, pranayam from Siddha Maharishi Agastya. He became a wandering sadhu and a master of Kriya Yoga. You'll see Mahavatar Babaji on the cover of the Beatles' 1967 Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band album cover. He can also be seen on the cover of George Harrison's 1974 album Dark Horse. George Harrison was a disciple of Babaji. In Book 3 of Conversations with God, which came out in 1998, author Neil Walsh mentioned that Babaji may at one time have resurrected himself from the dead, just like Lazarus, Jesus, and others. It is said that Sai Baba, Jesus, Guru Nanak, and many others were disciples of Mahavatar Babaji. There's so very much more information about Mahavatar Babaji that you can research and find in many books and on the internet, of course. Now, since they say that they think Babaji was Shiva, I would like to play a song dedicated to Babaji by a man named Bhagavan Das, and the song is called Shiva Shambho. Right here at the Eartheart Radio Show. And KSKQ, thank you for being here.
Alok Niranjan Sabaduk Banjan Bum Bihari Kabale Hamari Shambho Laga Tiri Tambu Bum 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 Blut Blut Bum Shankar Bulinad Mahadeva Bum 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 Shivo Shivo Shivo. Shiva Shiva Shambho Shiva Shiva Shambho Shiva Shiva Shambho Shiva Shiva
You are at the Eartheart Radio Show. Thank you so much for being here. That was Bhagavan Das with Shiva Shambho, and that was produced by Mike D from the Beastie Boys, and that was from an album called Now. KSKQ has a great new sponsor. Listeners who would like to support local community radio can now sign up for local internet services, and by doing so, directly help support this local community radio station. Visit sisq.net or call 541-734-2355 to get locally supported high-speed internet in your home or business.
You're listening to Eartheart Radio with your host, Shankara Das. Saint he ain't. On KSKQ.
Locals Guide is proud to be an underwriter of KSKQ. Locals Guide is committed to community building through the creation of positive media. They offer a monthly magazine, mobile travel guides, and visitor information kiosks, which offer timely and accurate local information to people just like you all around the world. KSKQ thanks Locals Guide and listeners like you for supporting community radio.
Please let go of your fear. Positive news is here. Things aren't as bad as it seems, no matter what they say. News with an agenda is meant to instill fear. True news can instill hope.
That's right, my friends. It is time for our positive news segment of the show. Today, in positive news, an 18-year-old pizzeria worker was praised for going above and beyond the call of duty after he broke the restaurant's takeout rule to deliver a pizza to a family's home 3.5 hours away. Yep, Julie and Rich Morgan had been reminiscing about the legendary pizzas that are served at Steve's Place in Battle Creek, Michigan. It had been 25 years since the couple lived in the city, but despite the distance, the fabled restaurant still set the bar for the perfect slice of pizza. Quote, "We were young and money was tight, but every payday, Rich would pick up Steve's Pizza for dinner," Julie wrote in a Facebook post. "I can't possibly describe how delicious this pizza is, and all these years later, we've never found a better pizza yet." Julie and Rich had been planning on visiting Battle Creek for her birthday, but their vacation loomed closer and an unexpected cancer diagnosis left Rich in hospice. Quote, "We talked about seeing the leaves and the lakeshore, but that was secondary to our planned visit to Steve's Pizza," said Julie. "Instead, I took Rich to the ER where he landed in ICU for 5 days and where he learned the news that his valiant cancer battle was coming to an end." Unbeknownst to the couple, Julie's father called Steve's Pizza in hopes of getting a letter or text or friendly call from the restaurant. During the next few years, he wandered... I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong page. But as fate would have it, the restaurant manager, 18-year-old Dalton Schaefer, answered the phone instead of the manager, or the boss. After listening to the plight of the Morgan family, Schaefer immediately asked what kind of pizza the couple liked. Julie's father emphasized that they lived in Indianapolis, which is 225 miles away from Battle Creek. Despite the restaurant maintaining a firm takeout-only rule, Schaefer waved away the man's protest and said that he would be delivering 2 pepperoni pizzas to the couple's house after he closed the store for the night. True to his word, Schaefer drove for 3.5 hours until he finally arrived at the Morgan's house. And so, while Rich and I slept, at 2:30 a.m., Dalton rolled into our driveway, left the car running, and delivered 2 extra special pizzas to my waiting family, wrote Julie. He told them we were in his prayers and offered to help in any way he could. As a means of expressing her gratitude, Julie posted a photo of the legendary pie to Facebook, saying, quote, "I am beyond overwhelmed and humbled by this act of genuine kindness. Dalton brought our family so much joy and the best pizza in the world at a really difficult time." Yes, my friends, gratitude is the attitude. Positive news number 2. The world's first 3D printed neighborhood has been built in Mexico. Yep. Could 3D printing help to tackle homelessness and provide affordable housing to those in need? Rural families in the regions of Tabasco in South Mexico have been giving new homes thanks to a project that is building the world's first 3D printed neighborhood. It's the work of a United States-based nonprofit called New Story, which has partnered with a 3D printing technology company to build 5,000 square foot homes for a community living in poverty. Each dwelling has 2 bedrooms plus a living room, kitchen, and bathroom. They've been designed to withstand seismic activity as well. New Story aims to end global homelessness and is using the 3D printing technology to build homes quickly at scale. The project will eventually create 50 homes there. Positive good news. Let's visualize and manifest less suffering, my friends. Going out for Jennifer Glee. Thanks for listening, my friends. I have time for a couple of quotes from Swami Sri Yukteswar before I head out of here. Quote, "Pain and pleasure are transitory. Endure all dualities with calmness while trying at the same time to remove their hold. Imagination is the door through which disease as well as healing enters. Disbelieve in the reality of sickness even when you are ill. The power of unfulfilled desires is the root of all of man's suffering and slavery." One more. "Human conduct is ever unreliable until man is anchored in the divine. Everything in the future will improve if you're making a spiritual effort now." And with that, I'll say, Hari Rama. Much love to all of you. Catch you next Sunday. It's time for Philosophy Talk here on KSKQ. Thanks for tuning in to Eartheart Radio Show.
You've been listening to Eartheart Radio with your host, Shankara Das. Eartheart Radio is produced by Shankara Das in association with Sister Tracy and Krishna Consciousness. Please tune in every Sunday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for more Eartheart Radio.